Nico is out at Tennessee, and didn't we tell you there was going to be an ACC tie-in somehow to this story? And we've got it because Nico is now being linked to the North Carolina Tar Heels.
You are Locked On ACC, your daily podcast on the Atlantic Coast Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Shout out to the everydayers, and thank you so much for making Locked On ACC your first listen and your first watch. We're available free wherever you get your podcasts. We're free on YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. On this loaded episode, we'll talk about the new trend that has apparently replaced spring football games in the ACC. Mario Cristobal, I was down at Miami spring game over the weekend, and Mario Cristobal had some strong words for a Nico Iamaleava type situation and how he would handle that as a head coach. Kenton Gibbs, before we bring on our special guest here, by the way, Kenton does an awesome job on Locked On Wolfpack. I am Alex Donno. I host Locked On Canes. This Nico story escalated really quickly, KG, because we talked about it on Friday. By Saturday, he's off the team. Tennessee, Josh Heupel dismissed him, and they had to, right?
I mean, yes. And it's, again, with the way that this thing has seemingly turned out, which, again, multiple reports from multiple sources are now corroborating the idea that Nico and his family were asking for more money and he was being shopped around. So again, it could be a situation where a lie gets around the world before the truth leaves the front door, but there is a lot of evidence pointing to, there are a lot of people all pointing to, hey, this young man was seeking a new deal, a better deal, a more lucrative deal, and that was the problem here. So we're going to report it from that angle because, again, that's what seems to be widely supported, which, again, that's just what we know it. You have to do that because at the end of the day, if you bend the knee and capitulate to this, and this is especially pertinent to the ACC because remember when the ACC was going through it with two teams, and I said, don't you dare make a success initiative specifically designed to give those teams money because what did I say would happen? What if the success for one of those teams doesn't come and they don't get to be a part of the initiative? Now, in the revenue sports that were a part of the initiative, I believe one of the schools that they capitulated to didn't have the success to warrant the money. So what then happened? We're going.
They won two games. I would call that a success, right? Two wins.
Success against two teams. Congratulations. They're not so successful against the other 10. But in all seriousness, very similar situation. You cannot say I'm going to give ground wherever you would like because how often will you have to give ground? You know, and I'm going to tell you this again. We are reporting the stuff that's generous. Donno and I have done our best to play this thing as straight down the middle with the facts as we possibly can. There are reports coming out from guys like Josh Pate that Nico was looking to redo his deal during the playoff.
Yeah.
Like this is so if things like that are true, I mean, you absolutely cannot say, hey man, we're gonna go ahead and pay you more because we're in the playoff, even if you're a guy that we won with, and maybe at times in spite of, instead of a guy we won because of.
And you know what's crazy is the transfer portal is not even open yet, and we're already seeing predictions and even crystal balls on where Nico is going to land. We bring in Brian Smith, and by the way, he's 2 for 2. He was with us Friday. He's with us Monday. We appreciate his time because he's very busy this time of year. He hosts the Portal podcast here on Locked On. So Brian, I'm already seeing Nico is being linked to a move to the North Carolina Tar Heels. Very interesting crystal ball because the crystal ball actually came from a Florida State insider, Brendan Sinoni from 24/7 Sports. Now, it's an odd source for that info. Sinoni is good at what he does, so like I'm not doubting it. He must be doing his due diligence, and somebody told him UNC might be the move here. But I mean, can you imagine Nico with Bill Belichick at North Carolina?
I can, because right now their quarterback situation is about as good as the haircut that Kenton or myself have. It's just not. It's
And
just
me.
not where it needs to. Well, I was trying to leave you out of this, Don. I was being nice.
Thank you.
But look, I know that Kenton is not exactly a big UNC supporter, but if you're Bill, first year is important, man. Their quarterback room is iffy. Now, I'm not saying that they're going to be giving in to these. $4 million ain't happening anywhere. Not based on, because Kenton was right. He hasn't earned it. He handed off and did a great job of that. I'd give Donno back there to hand off part of the time. Now, I know Nico's arm's insane, but does he really deserve a shot like North Carolina? Not necessarily, but there just aren't enough quarterbacks, and they've got a lot of NIL money. They've got a bunch, allegedly. I'll let Kenton speak to that. I'm sure he knows more about it than I do by a mile, but you got to at least call, don't you, Kenton? If you're UNC, I mean, a phone call doesn't cost you anything.
Yeah. I'll tell you this much. From what I'm hearing out of the UNC camp, there is allegedly some traction there. When you talk about the NIL allotment, he will not touch near what his Tennessee deal was. He's not. However, what I'm hearing, and again, this is just what I'm hearing, and I tell y'all when I got a source, and I'm like, I'm 1,000% sure this source been good to me. It's not that type of deal here. But what I'm hearing is the thing that may make this marriage work is the thing that kind of got him in trouble here about the incentives and the extras, about the like, hey, if you perform, you could see a potential increase in pay, which I think it kind of works out when you think about how Bill Belichick consistently talked about, we're going to make this the 33rd NFL team. Well, what's more professional than saying, all right, this is your deal for 12 games. If we play at 13th, here's a little lanyard on top of that. If that 13th is the ACC championship, that changes the calculus. If that 13th is a potential playoff game. So I'm hearing that they are kicking the tires. And also, like you said, Brian, this is a situation where, you were being generous saying they were iffy. The quarterback room was iffy. I've heard that quarterback room stinks to the high heavens. So you need to do something to shore that thing up. And Nico, like you talked about, although the proven, like, hey, he's been a leader, he's been a winner, he's been a guy that you won because of, although that may not be there, the talent is to where all three of us know, if you have the right amount of talent, if we know what you can do from a physical standpoint, there will always be a coach there saying, I can do it. I can change him. I'm the coach that's going to coach him up to 4,500 yards and 50 touchdowns. I'm the coach to do it. So obviously somebody was going to come along to Nico. I just think this is unfortunate for Nico because, again, he's going to take a pay cut. Like there's no doubt in my mind about that, even with UNC being a big player in NIL.
I agree. Now the question is there anybody else? UCLA was bandied about. Notre Dame ain't happening. SC ain't happening. Oregon ain't happening. I heard Texas Tech wasn't happening. They got NIL money for sure. But like, just do the due diligence. Like, who needs a quarterback and who also has not good, but elite NIL? Those two things aren't really happening together right now.
You know who else I've heard could be in the mix here, and it's obviously not at the same caliber as the programs you mentioned, but Tulane might be in the mix for him.
That's a rich school, so maybe they would make a splash to make up for their quarterback getting snatched to Duke, which that is bizarre on another level.
Yeah.
Maybe they would want to, but that's a school with a lot of money. I just don't think they want to dump it into football like that.
Right.
Maybe I'm wrong. They've got a really good coach. I don't know. But I agree with Kenton, though. Pay cut is likely. He needs to have a very heavy incentive-laden deal. And if you ball out this year, let's say he goes to Tulane. They go 11-1, go to the playoff. Okay. Then you pay his butt on the back end. He earned it. He changed your school. Absolutely. And I'm all, look, man, if you go out and ball out and you get a couple extra sponsors, a local Mercedes dealership or something wants to sign you a check, fire away, brother.
Well, when we come back, I want to talk a little bit more about how this has unfolded over the past 48 hours. Because, like, the last time, we were on Locked On ACC and Brian was on with us, we were just talking about the Pete Nakos reports about him shopping for deals, or his family and his agent, Nico's family, his father and his agent shopping for deals, and how, something was going to happen with Tennessee. That has happened. He's going to be in the portal. You want to keep it locked right here, guys. We have a lot more to get to on this episode, on this brand new Locked On ACC. Do you ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you stop just managing your money and you start building wealth. Guys, when I started using Monarch, I realized how much I was spending and overspending on things like subscription services and food delivery. Like, all this stuff is good, but in moderation. I budget smarter now and I save more. And instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track spending, even plan your long-term goals. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first order. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. Thank you so much for making Locked On ACC your first listen and your first watch today. For your next listen, make sure you check out the Portal podcast. And in fact, if you get into a vortex on the Portal podcast, you'll be there all day and you'll love it, because there's so much going on in the transfer portal. And Nico, who's going to be in that portal, is a huge story, Brian. And I think one of the things that I feel a little bit bad for Nico here. And tell me, to your knowledge, am I characterizing this correctly? Because it really seems like this guy, he wants to play football, but when you've got family members that start, managing the business side of your career, and you've got an agent who's trying to manage that side of your career, I don't know how much of what's going on. Now, Nico, he had to make that decision not to show up to practice on Friday. That's on him. Like, even if people are telling him, hey, don't show up there, he could have still shown up there and explained to Josh Heupel what was going on. He didn't. So I guess that part of it is on him. But a lot of this, Brian, feels like he's been manipulated a bit.
Yeah, I've had the opportunity to be around Nico. Great guy. He was somebody that was always very humble with the media, very gregarious. Everybody enjoyed being around him. Not everybody that is involved in his camp I would label in the same. And I'll just leave it at that. And I had a sense this wasn't going to end well, not to this level, but I had a sense this wasn't going to end well before he even arrived in Knoxville, Tennessee. But this is utterly stupid, like the way they handled this, because whether you like it or not, and players are getting paid now, but the schools still have more leverage because there are other quarterbacks. They know, as Kenton and myself and Don and everybody talked about, if you give in to Nico, the line out the door, you can't look at it from an individual perspective alone. It is calculus. This is not pre-algebra here. And they looked at it from a singular ledger, like, that's just about Nico. No, it's not. This is the Tennessee Volunteers. So again, for those of you just throwing stones at Nico, I guarantee you this was not his play. I guarantee it. But at the same time, as Donno said, he didn't show up to practice. Whether that was influenced on him or whatever, it's still his decision to show up or not. No. He didn't. And now he's got to figure it out. I'm sure he's got plenty of options, but at the same price tag, not really.
Here's my thing about this, right? I get that you feel bad for the young man because his brain ain't fully formed yet, right? We know 25 is about the time that you're the part of your brain responsible for
I'm 40 and I'm still waiting for that day.
well, it's an average. That's why they say it's the average. Some people get it early and some people get it late.
Yeah.
But there is, I fully understand that there are bad actors in the camp. And trust me, we've all heard the same thing. If you've been following this story closely, obviously calling reporters the B word and all that, that's not something that's becoming of somebody that, hey, I'm trying to get you paid. That's not how you go about doing it. Now, with that in mind, I'm going to give, and I'm sure that this is going to be taken with a grain of salt if Nico even ever hears this or listens. But I'm going to tell you right now, Nico, I'm going to tell you, and I'm going to tell every college athlete, I'm going to tell all the future college athletes right now, you need wise counsel around you. And a lot of times that wise counsel is going to come in the form of somebody who has no vested interest, no dog in the fight. It's going to come from people who are looking at this thing, who have, everybody's got a Houdini Brown in their corner, rubbing their shoulders. Oh, you the baddest, you the greatest. For those of you who don't know, Houdini Brown did that for Muhammad Ali. That was his job. It was to rub Ali's shoulders and say, oh, you the greatest, champ. You the champ. You the champ. You could knock anybody out. You could do whatever to anybody. And Houdini Brown was there all the way to the end when he fought Buster Douglas and all that, when he was well past his prime. Still saying, you the best, champ. You the best. You can get it. When there was no shot. You had no shot. It's the same thing here. Players, please be aware. Everybody, there's going to be somebody in your corner. The grass is always green on the other side. You can go get more money over there. You can go get. Look at your situation and where you are. You were earning, in terms of NIL deal, 1% amongst college players, period. Football and basketball, you were a 1%. You're not going to drop far out of that, but you're going to take a drop. That's just period. Because like y'all have both alluded to already, these teams that have big money don't have big needs at the end of spring. That's not how it works. And quarterback is the biggest need there is. If you've got money to drop $3-4 million on a quarterback, you've already dropped it. Look at Miami. Yeah. Carson Beck said, oh, you stole a Lambo? I'm going to get another one. Don't worry about it.
You didn't even have to wait for the insurance check. He's just like, I'll get it today.
Oh, y'all got me. Hey, let him keep it. Let him keep it. I'll go get another. But that's the point. The schools who have the money have the quarterback already. Nobody who has that type of money is sitting here waiting after spring saying, well, damn, what are we going to do about this quarterback position? When you're going to get less reps guaranteed. So, again, players, please, please, please have somebody in your ear that's going to be good counsel. Because Nico, whether he realizes it right now or whether he realizes it in 5, 10, 15 years, he has bad counsel in his ear, and they are going to lead him down a path of ruin and destruction where he's got to overcome and jump over the hurdle of, well, he's a great kid. All of us can agree. Anybody who's met the young man, I haven't heard bad words about him as an individual, but I also have not heard a good word about his camp. So any NFL team drafts him, oh yeah, you got to go that. You got to deal with that too. It's unfortunate.
Well, and let me throw in something, and Brian, you can chime in on this because it's pretty similar to what you said with us on Friday. So after Miami spring game on Saturday, Mario Cristobal was asked about, like, how do you handle a situation like this? And I thought Josh Heupel handled it appropriately, and I think Cristobal agrees with that. Like he mentioned, if you're going to play holdout, you might as well get out. That was his quote. And he brought up that, like, as a university, as a coach, and I guess it would have been the NIL collective would have been responsible for ponying up, the extra money. But that if you cave to those demands, then Brian, you're going to have, in Cristobal's words, a line of 80 guys who are then looking to get their deals redone the way Nico or whoever did. And again, I'm all about, name, image, and likeness. Like, I am for it. I am for NIL, but there's a right way to go about this when you're trying to get your bag. And that was not the right way.
No, it wasn't. There were rumors about it all the way back in December during the playoff. We talked about that. But doing it at the end of spring, you didn't have a great sophomore year. They just thought they could leverage him. Yeah. And they were wrong. So Mario's point is very true as well. By definition of the law here, it is his right to renegotiate. That's fine. But if you're Miami or any other school that's in that situation with a big-time player, Tennessee, Michigan, doesn't matter. If you open that Pandora's box, there's just too many guys on scholarship. That's nothing against Nico or his camp. Yeah. They couldn't do it no matter what they wanted to do because then they screwed themselves. I happened to cover Florida State. I saw what happened when they ponied up last year. How did that go? Oh, that's right. They went 2-10. You cannot allow complacency to get it. You got to earn it. You can set up something with a bunch of incentives on the back end. Upfront money's out the door. For the people that are hoping kids get a lot of upfront money, what Nico and his camp did just screwed that. That is going out the window. It was headed that direction anyway, but this is just going to push it further to the back. They want to see results first. And
But
that's
this is
unfortunate. But
this is exactly what I was saying about wise counsel. I'm sorry to cut you off there, Brian, but this is exactly what I mean about wise counsel, because you said they tried to leverage them. What's the leverage? And where's the option? When you look around, if I could understand if we're having this conversation immediately following the loss to Ohio State. It was a terrible performance. Hey, your stock is at an all-time low, but I can at least see the rationale of, hey, there's schools with money that'll take me. There are schools with money that we can spin this some way to say, oh, Hypo doesn't put guys in the NFL, and they've got guys playing out near the hash marks. That's not an NFL system. I just want to be somewhere that'll get me pro ready. You can spin it. In this moment right here, there is no spin. There is nobody with money looking for a quarterback. Where is your leverage? And that's what I mean by your camp has to be wise. It's not just about, it's not just about the decision you make as an individual. Look at your camp and look at the situations they put you in and say, is this a good situation? Because we are all talking about Nico. And if somebody would have told you in 2019, hey, man, let me tell you something. We all going to be talking about Nico. He's going to be the biggest story there is. Tennessee fans would have went wild. They would have said, oh, wait, I'm salivating. I can't wait. I can't wait. If we would have said this 3 years ago, they would have been super excited. But now the reality of this is he's the biggest story for asking for more money than he was worth to most people. He's the biggest story for asking for money when, again, the money schools already gone. Donno, would you have loved him at Miami? If he was on the table in December, before now, right? Him, Carson Beck, would you have definitively said, I 1,000% want Beck over him? There's not a world where I want Nico.
I mean, I would say Beck is more proven than Nico, but I would have taken a long, hard look at Nico, but I think Beck would be the guy I would go with.
But now, because you have waited this one out again, your camp has put you in a terrible position. If you wanted to do it early. Do it while these schools got money. But now you're sitting here waiting for scraps from somebody who's got money, who's got something for me. Instead of staying where you were, make your extra $2 million, and then next year say, all right, I've proven myself. All these first-round defensive linemen are going. I've shown that I'm the reason we can win ball games. Now I'm going to go get a payday.
Can I give you my opinion? I think that this may be less about to Nico's camp. Maybe this was less about going somewhere else, but really thinking Tennessee's going to pony up because I've just gone through the entire offseason through spring. And guess what? Tennessee's backup they've only got 2 more scholarship quarterbacks on the roster with 0 collegiate experience. So honestly, I think Nico just overplayed his hand here. I don't think he really wanted to leave Tennessee. I think he thought they've got no other option but to up my deal. He overplayed his hand, in my opinion.
Well, both those quarterbacks, one is enrolled in the spring. The other one had a grand total, I believe, of 9 snaps last year, and neither one of them is physically ready to be a true SEC quarterback. I've been around both of them. Neither one of them's ready. At that point, but you also tick off the coaches, but they're not stupid. They know are college football coaches stubborn? Would you say they're stubborn? Oh yeah. Do they take that well when you try to leverage them? How does that go?
Let me tell you something. There have been situations where a coach combined 2 calls that would have had me and the defensive end both in the B gap together. And I was like, Coach, those calls don't make sense. We would have collided in the B gap based on, and the coach was like, you just read what I said. You're not the coach. And then he came up to me after the meeting. Everybody's gone. And he said, hey, Gibbs, man, you were right. I just couldn't in front of the team say that, because that's how stubborn coaches are. So you're absolutely right. If a story is in front of millions of eyes, they definitely can't look weak and, we bended the knee in front of millions. You definitely can't do it.
Well, one of my favorites about coach personalities, one of my favorite stories is my guy Channing Crowder. Before he's so big now with the pivot and everything. I used to do local radio with him, and he would tell this story. When he played for the Dolphins and Saban, Nick Saban was his head coach for a couple of years, and Crowder had he said it was after a practice where he didn't do so well, and he ran into Saban in the men's room. It was kind of awkward, so he's trying to make small talk with him. He's like, "Oh, Nick, how's your wife doing?" And his answer was, "She'd be doing a lot better if you could cover a tight end on third down."
Ooh, I'll
rough.
tell you what. But that's the way coaches are. It's single-minded focus. It's that single-minded focus. And if you don't have it, you're not going to be at an SEC school, especially not one like Tennessee, for long.
Yeah. Well, I want to say huge thank you. I know Brian Smith has got to get all of his portal headlines ready. So we're going to say goodbye to Brian, but make sure you guys follow him at LO_the portal, Locked On the Portal podcast. Brian, thank you so much for taking the time. And if you see me calling you, you feel free to hit ignore, because I'm going to be hitting you up a lot over the next couple of days.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you very much.
Awesome stuff. Oh, when we come back, so only 2 programs in the ACC opted to have their spring games televised. Here's why. You want to keep it locked. My friends, Supply House is the spot to get the supplies you need from the site made for the skilled trades. Guys, whether you're in plumbing, HVAC, or electrical work, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from 400-plus top brands, you'll find exactly what you need, delivered fast from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you'll always talk to a real person. How about that? And for trade pros looking for an extra edge, their free Trade Master program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage. Now it's your turn. Join the Trade Master program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Thank you for making Locked On ACC your first listen. For your next listen, make sure you check out Kenton Gibbs and Grayson Boone on Locked On Wolfpack. Check me out at Locked On Canes. All right, so, Kenton, we talked last week about, how many ACC programs just didn't have spring games. A lot of them did, but opted not to televise them, including Miami's spring game that I went to on Saturday. In fact, only 2 programs in the ACC, Georgia Tech and Virginia, were the only ones who opted to have their spring game televised or streamed in some form by ACC Network in the ESPN family. And this is interesting, Kenton. So by the network, the ACC programs were given the option of either televising your spring game. You can do that. Only 2 of them decided to do that. Or if you wish, you can, this was reported by the Miami Herald last week, you can either air a live spring game, or you can provide a piece of original spring football content to replace it if the school is interested in producing that show. So, Kenton, almost everyone has opted to produce original content. What Miami is doing is it hasn't aired yet, but they're doing like a behind the scenes all access spring thing. And Kenton, if given that option, I can understand why most of these programs are opting for option number 2, because you get to completely control the message. You get to edit, you get to produce your own interviews and only show the highlights that you want to interview, versus airing your spring game, which can come with warts, it can come with broken plays, it can come with also stuff you don't want other teams to see and players you don't want other teams to see and potentially poach. So yeah, if you give a college program the option of producing essentially your own commercial versus airing your spring game, good, bad, and ugly, all of it, I can understand why most programs are opting to produce their own content.
Soft, Donno. It's soft. It's Charmin soft, and not the Charmin Ultra Strong. Charmin Ultra Soft type of soft. This is terrible. Let's be honest, Donno. Let's be very honest here. Everybody wants to control the narrative. Well, here's the thing. When you get out on that field, you won't be able to do so. The narrative will be written by what you produce. Good, bad, indifferent. Oh, well, it'll keep our players from getting poached. Will it? Oh, well, it'll give us an extra practice. And see, a lot of people don't even realize these arguments work against each other in a circular, very dumb motion. Oh, well, we don't want a spring game because we want high intensity and we want these guys going at each other, running the stuff that we want to see, not what the fans want to see or what we don't want to show other teams. So then the injury thing is out the door, huh? Oh, well, we're very worried about injuries, and that's why we're having another practice. So you're not going to practice. Y'all are just going to chill and kind of have fun with the fans, right? Like, oh, well, we're very worried about players potentially entering the portal and getting poached or getting, what's the word I'm looking for, tampered with by other schools. Okay, cool. So you think that you have the type of depth that is so good. Every school, y'all all think you all have depth that is so good that other schools are just itching and fiending for your players, huh? You think so? You think I'm going to tell you right now that red shirt senior that's still a backup, that young man's an accountant. That's what he is. He's an engineer. He's going to be a wonderful engineer. He's going to build some of the best bridges we've ever seen. But you know what he is not? An NFL player. You know what he is not? An all-conference performer in another group of Power 4 conference. That's what he's not. And most Group of 5 schools, we heard Marshall's coach last year. If you want an NIL deal, we've got a great biscuit place. You can get all you can eat biscuits.
That got me excited. Yeah.
And now he's at Southern Miss.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So I'm sure
also,
his NIL allotment went through the roof.
There's some good biscuits in Mississippi too, I hear.
But you get the point, Donald. This is what are we doing here, man? Everybody always wants, everything has to be curated and perfect and nice and neat and the way I want to do it. Give your fans something. Because a lot of y'all schools, your fans aren't going to have nothing to cheer for during the season. At least give them something during the off season, But for the schools who played the spring game and didn't televise it, I'm less sour at them. I'm less sour at the Miamis of the world. I believe, what was it? Did SMU have a spring game that they just didn't televise?
No, they didn't. They just they had a closed scrimmage. They didn't have a spring game.
Gotcha. But either way you cut or slice it, the schools who had spring games for the fans, Clemson, I know, had one. They just didn't televise. More power to you for those schools. But to the ones who are, we need this one extra practice. Get out of here, man. Get out of here. If you can sacrifice one practice to make your fans be more excited to show up, to give yourself that home field advantage, that it gets a little bit louder, people feel a little bit more connected to the university, give up that damn one practice.
Yeah. I think connecting with the fans is so important. And some programs take that for granted. Like some programs just think, hey, we're playing football. Football's a multi-billion-dollar business. They're going to show up. But like fans miss some of these little things, Kenton. Like I know some Miami fans who are a little older. They're like Gen Z or Gen X, whatever Gen is. X, Gen Z is younger. Gen X, I think, is what I'm looking for. I'm a millennial. I know some Gen X fans who are like upset about things like they don't do media guides anymore that you can order. They don't send out like the poster schedules and stuff. And it's just, it's changed a lot. But I think connecting with your fans with a spring game is super important. I prefer if it's televised, but if you're not going to televise it, at least still do it and give people in the community an opportunity to get out there and connect. Because, and some programs are finding other ways to do it. Like I think North Carolina didn't have a spring game, but I think they did have like a fan fest type of thing. So at least you could go out and like get autographs and stuff. A lot of programs build that into their spring game. Like Miami had an autograph session before the spring game started, but connecting with fans is super important. And listen, I think we need to make Kenton the new commissioner. I mean, Jim Phillips can't do this forever, right? Eventually, Jim is going to move on to the next thing because Kenton would not have been bullied by Florida State and Clemson in those lawsuits. And he sure as heck would make sure teams are doing spring games. You're my next commish, KG.
Hey, listen, I appreciate the vote of confidence. If this was an election, I would definitely say, vote for me and I'll bring spring games back. Okay, that would definitely be me. But unfortunately, it don't work like that. The board of trustees, they're not going to vote for a guy like me, because I'm going to tell you, either things are going to go swimmingly well or it's going to go horribly. Either we're going to win that court case against the Clemson and the Florida State, or we're going to be out of two schools. We're going to be out of two really big ones. So, I will say this, though. I 1,000% think that there is value to, like you said, giving the fans that experience, giving them that connection to your team when in 2025, think about this. The Gen Xers you talked about, there was no TikTok for them, right? There wasn't all of these different things.
Believe me, the Gen Xers, they're not on TikTok now either.
No. But that's my point. When they were having their formative years, there were not all these different things pulling them all these ways. It was, you go to the Miami football game or you don't. That's it.
Yeah, right.
That's all there is to it. Okay, you form all your great memories at these spring games. I remember we took that trip down to Coral Gables. Oh, I remember we took that trip to the stadium. It's not the same when you don't give these younger fans that experience.
Right. Well, we appreciate everyone for making Locked On ACC your first listen today. Thanks to Brian Smith for joining us. Check him out at the Portal Podcast. Check Kenton out on Locked On Wolfpack. Check me out on Locked On Canes. And we'll talk to everyone again tomorrow on another episode of Locked On ACC. We are part of the awesome Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.